2016, January 2016, right? Divided by the previous month's price and is subtract by 1. Okay, and then for the following assets and the following months of this asset, we just drag it to the right hand side. Right, so this is pretty simple. And then, okay, move the mouse to the right corner. When the cursor represents like a black cross, we just double click it. Okay, that's it. Yeah, so this is the return of this 15 stocks. For you it's 30 stocks. Okay. Okay, then we calculate the mean return standard deviation. Okay, would you like me to show it to you how to calculate that?
Yes.
Okay, yes, yeah. So mean return, we use function average, right? So just to highlight the whole data, right? Okay, and then enter. Okay, for standard deviation, we use stdev function. And then highlight the whole data, right? Okay. For the remaining assets, we just drag it, right, to the right hand side. Okay, so that is the mean return and the standard deviation. Are we clear? For annualized mean, so it's the other way around, right? So it's 1 plus the monthly return, right? Then to the power of 12. Okay, earlier it's 1 over 12. Now we convert the monthly return to annual return. So it's to the power of 12. And then minus 1. Okay. And for annualized standard deviation, we just use square root, SQRT, square root of 12, right? And then times by the standard deviation. Okay, so this is annualized standard deviation. Okay, so that's it. Are we good? Are we good? Yeah. Okay, good. Now, what we need to do is to get the portfolio return. We need to have 10 portfolios, right? So here we got weights for 30 stocks. Here I got 15, but for you need to list the 30 stocks that you collected. Okay, 30 stocks name. And then 10 portfolios. Okay. So as you can see, 10 portfolios here. Initially, we need to set a weight on these 10 portfolios. As I mentioned before, we can just set 1 for the first stock and 10 for the 0 for the remaining stocks. Okay, and then we just copy paste it for the rest of the portfolios. Okay, so this is the initial weight that we set for these 10 portfolios. Given the weights, we can calculate return of these 10 portfolios. Okay. So calculate return of the portfolio, we use this function, right? This function. So it's the weight of each asset times by the return of each asset and then add them up. Okay? So it could be very tedious, right? Because we need to do that one by one. What we can do is to use it in a matrix. Okay? So it's the return of first asset on the first month, second month, and then 61 months. Okay, for this column. The second column is the return of the second asset right over this 61 months. Okay? So this is the matrix of return of these 30 stocks. And another matrix is the weights of these 30 stocks. Okay? given 10 portfolios. Okay, so first column is the weight of 30 stocks for the first portfolio, second column is for the second portfolio, and the 10th column is for the 10th portfolio. Okay, so we just use the kind of multiplication of the matrix. We can calculate return of these 10 portfolios. Okay, in these 60 months. Okay, is that clear? Okay, so we just use MMULT function, which refers to, we can see here, so can we see here the information of this function? So it says that returns the matrix product of two arrays, okay, so two matrices. So the first matrix is the return of 30 stocks. I have to just highlight that. And then use comma to separate the matrix. And the second matrix is the portfolios, the weights of these 10 portfolios. Okay. And then that's it. Close bracket. Enter. Okay. So we got the initial return of these 10 portfolios in 61 months. So we can see that return of these 10 portfolios in each month must be the same because we set the same weight. Okay. Again, we calculate the mean return of these 10 portfolios and the standard deviation. Okay. So we have done that part, and then we just move the standard deviation and average return to here. Okay. So next step, we need to set a few constraints, okay, and then we should be able to construct portfolios by using the solver function. The first constraint is the sum of weights always equal to 1, okay? So here, okay, I set a section, like set of constraints. The first one, sum of weights, right? So here, we don't just put number 1 in the cell. Okay, we use the function of sum, okay? So if you can see, I sum up the weights of these stocks. Okay, so it means that the sum value of the weights changes when the weights of each stock change. Okay, that makes sense. So do the same for the following portfolios. Okay, and the next one is to set the return. Okay, target the return of a certain number of portfolios. Okay, so we can leave that and do that later. Okay, now, and another one, so this is the optimal portfolio. So we need to construct a few portfolios, right? So these are the 10 portfolios that we need to construct. Okay, 4 of them are very straightforward, very clear. Okay, so first one, tangency portfolio. Remember, so this is the portfolio generates the highest Sharpe ratio. Okay, and then the second one is the return generates highest. Portfolio generates the highest return. Okay, and then generates the lowest return. Okay, and then global minimum variance portfolio. So this portfolio has the lowest standard deviation. Okay. So these are the 4 portfolios that we are pretty clear, okay? And then we construct other 5 portfolios in between this, in between any 2 of these 4 portfolios, okay? So I calculated tangency portfolio, the Sharpe ratio of tangency portfolio first. So the Sharpe ratio, remember, to calculate the Sharpe ratio is the return of the portfolio, right? So I just put the row of the return. So this is the return. So this cell, right? And subtract by the risk-free rate. Okay, I just move the risk-free rate here. And then divided by standard deviation. Okay, so this is Sharpe ratio. Okay, so we are pretty ready to construct portfolio. Yeah. So to construct portfolio, we need to use the solver function. Okay, if you couldn't see the solver under the menu of data, you need to get that. So I should have shown that in the slides to show you how to get that. You can check that later. Okay. So click solver. Okay, and we need to construct the tangency portfolio first. So for the tangency portfolio, what's the target? What's the objective?
Maximize Sharpe.
Yeah, maximize Sharpe ratio, right? So we click Sharpe ratio, which we just calculated, and click max, so we need to maximize the Sharpe ratio, right? And then we set the changing variable cells. Okay, so this is basically the column of weights of this portfolio. And then we set constraints, okay? So the constraints for tangency portfolio with the short cells not allowed is basically two constraints. One is the sum of weight equals to 1, okay? So we click the cell of the sum of weights of this portfolio, okay, and then make it equal to 1. Okay, so this is the first constraint. The second constraint is that the weights of each asset need to be positive. Okay. In Excel, we don't need to do that because we can just tick the box, make unconstrained variables non-negative. Okay. When we tick the box, it means that we set the constraints that the weights are positive. Okay, and then solve. Okay. Okay, then we can see the weights of the assets change, right? And the Sharpe ratio change as well. Okay, the sum of weight still equals to 1. That is good. Okay, are we clear? Okay, so next we can construct a portfolio with maximum return. We do the solver again. We can just reset off here. So for this one, what's the constraint? What's the objective of this portfolio? Portfolio with a maximum return. What's the objective?
Which one?
Portfolio with maximum return.
Maximize mean.
Yeah, very good. So the objective of that is to maximize the return. So we just select the return and choose maximize. Changing variable cells, still the weight of these stocks. Okay, constraints, set it equal to 1. Okay, the sum of weight equal to 1. And then that's it. Okay, so we can have only one stock selected with the weight 100%. Okay, that stock mainly generates the highest return. Is that clear? Is that clear? Is that clear to you guys? Good? Okay. Do you like me to keep doing or is that alright? Okay. So this is how to do that, right? Portfolio with maximum return. Portfolio with minimum return is the same, okay? But the target becomes, objective becomes minimize the return. So select the return and minimize it, change the changing variables. Okay, and change the constraints. The sum of weight equals to 1, and then that's it. Okay, so this is the portfolio with minimum return. And then with minimum risk portfolio, it's pretty clear, right? So it's the objective is to set the minimum standard deviation. So we select standard deviation, okay, and change the changing variable cells. constraints again is still the sum value of the weights equals to 1. Okay, so far we constructed these 4 portfolios that I highlighted in red. Okay, and for the remaining 6 portfolios, we need to set another constraint, which is the target return. Okay, so for example, for portfolio F, we need to set the target return, which is in between the return of the global minimum variance portfolio and the minimum return portfolio. Okay? So for the portfolio with minimum return, the average return is minus 0.0043, and the portfolio with minimum standard deviation, the return is 0.0003. Okay? So I can set a target return in between these two. Okay, so I set here is minus 0.002. Okay? Of course, I can also set minus 0.001 or 0. Okay? Again, this is solver function. So what's the objective for this one? For portfolio 2, what's the objective?
The return must be an average between portfolio, the return of portfolio 1 and portfolio 3.
Yeah, so what's the objective?
Minimize standard deviation.
Very good. Okay, so objective for this kind of portfolio is to minimize the standard deviation. Okay, and then highlight the weights and constraints. So this time we need to set 2 constraints. First one, of course, the sum of weight equal to 1. And then second constraint is that the return of the portfolio. Okay, so we selected the return of the portfolio equals to target return. So we just highlight the target return here. Okay, and then okay. So after solving this kind of portfolio, we would have the portfolio return equals to minus 0.002. Okay, so can we see the changes of the return of the portfolio? So here it becomes minus 0.002. Okay, so it's the same as what we set on the target return. Does it make sense, guys? Is that clear? Is that clear? Clear or not? Not really? So which parts are you not quite sure? Which part? You're not sure. Okay. So I just show you how to construct this portfolio, right? Portfolio 2, okay? So this portfolio 2 is basically portfolio F here, okay? It lies in between the global minimum variance portfolio and the minimum return portfolio, okay? So for building up this kind of portfolio, I need to set a constraint to make the return of this portfolio equals to the target return that I set, okay? The target return that I set must be in between the return of minimum return portfolio and the minimum variance portfolio, okay? So I don't just set a number there, okay? Also, I can set it like 0 or minus 0.001, but it couldn't be above 0.00039 or below minus 0.0043, okay? So it should be in between these two. Does make sense? Okay? So similarly, when I constructed these 4 portfolios, okay, I also need to set the target return for these four. So these four portfolios is here, okay? These four portfolios lie in between global minimum variance portfolio and tangency portfolio, okay? So we can see that target return that I set here is in between the return of this one and the return of this one, okay? 0.018 below 0.02, okay? So apparently, this portfolio's return is lower than this one, lower than this one, and lower than this one, and then lower than this one, okay? That makes sense, okay? So as long as we set target return, we can do the same to construct these four portfolios, okay? Is that clear? And then another portfolio here, okay? We also set a target return, which is greater than this one and higher, lower than this one, okay? Is that clear? Yeah? So we do the same and construct all the portfolios. Are we good? Is that clear? Yeah, so like I have done here, okay? Yeah, so this suppose portfolios that I have constructed, okay? I previously showed the target return, right, of these four portfolios. If we can check, we can see that this target return, this is the return of the portfolio given the weight set on these 15 stocks, okay? So the return of portfolio equals to target return. The return of this portfolio equals to target return, right? And this portfolio return equals to the target return, okay? So it means that we have done that correctly, okay? And then after constructing all the portfolios, we can then depict the minimum variance frontier, okay? So to do that, we can first transpose these these two rows. Okay, so these two rows are basically annualized standard deviation and annualized return of these 10 portfolios. Okay, so we still remember how to do that to convert monthly return to annual return or monthly standard deviation to annual standard deviation. Okay, so we can transpose that. Okay, we just use transpose function. Okay, can we see that? So we use transpose function and then highlight these two rows. Enter, and then we got to transpose the values in row then to the column. Okay, so I just forget to highlight. Should be all right. I shouldn't do that here. Okay. Then I just highlight these two columns and then insert the scatter plot. Okay. So this is actually the 10 portfolios we constructed located in this standard deviation and the return space. Okay, so then we right click and we can format data series. Select the solid line. Okay, so these 10 portfolios are connected, and then we can tick the box that shows smooth the line. Okay, it looks better now. So this is the feasible set for these risky portfolios. Okay. Next one is to get to the capital allocation line. Okay, so remember the capital allocation line. So it's connect the risk-free rates and the tangency portfolio. Okay, so I just move the risk-free rate and tangency portfolio here. Okay, So I could select the data and then add data. So x value is the standard deviation. Sorry. X value is standard deviation of these two. And then y value is the return. Okay? And then that's it. Okay, so this is the capital allocation line since short sales are not allowed. Okay? Are we good?
I didn't get a thing. What is method C? Under the...
Okay.
Because I noticed that in...
See here, we don't need to put C here because the short sales are not allowed.
Okay.
Okay? And if short sales are allowed, then this line should be above,
So it's just
should be expanded.
It's just in the part with short sale allowed.
Yes,
And
exactly.
this is what? Because I put one, because I saw on your file that it was one. But I don't know what is.
Okay, the C here is a standard. I just find a point around this area. Okay, to extend this line.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense. So here I just set 0.5. I can also set 0.4, 0.3, doesn't matter. And then, given the standard deviation, we could find the required rate of return. Okay, remember? So it's the risk-free rate plus the Sharpe ratio times by the standard deviation. Then we can get the required rate of return. Okay, and then we can just add this data. Okay, so extend it.
Yeah, it's up to which point the capital market line.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So this linear line has been extended. Okay. Yeah. So of course we can change. So it's 0.5 that I set. I can change it to 0.3. Okay. So this line becomes shorter, right? Or 0.6. Yeah. Does make sense. Okay. So for the case that short sales are not allowed, this linear line should be stopped here, and it should not extend it. Okay. Yeah. So this is the case for short sales not allowed, right? Are we clear? Do we have any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about short sales are allowed. Okay, so basically the process is the same. Okay, we need to get a separate spreadsheet. Okay, because the weights of these service stocks could be different. Okay, so short sales are allowed. That means that the weight of some stocks could be negative, right? And when the weights of stocks changes, the portfolio return will change. Okay, so it's better to get a separate spreadsheet and repeat the process. Okay, so get set the initial weights of 10 portfolios, calculate the return of these portfolios. Okay, and then construct the portfolio, right? Use like for example, start with the tendency portfolio. Okay, so for example, I have initialized the tendency portfolio. Okay, so to construct this portfolio, so the objective, of course, was maximize the Sharpe ratio, right? And the changing variable sales is still the weight of these assets. And then constraints, okay? So previously we learned that the constraints for constructing portfolio is that the sum value of the weight equals to 1, right? This is what I just set. And another constraint, okay, I untick the box here, make the unconstrained variable non-negative. I untick it. Okay, it means that the weights of the stocks could be negative. Okay, but I also need to set the minimum weight of these stocks. So what I said here is the weight of these stocks is greater than minus 0.1. Okay. So if I don't set that, we can see what's the value of it. I can delete that constraint, and then let's take a look. Okay, so we can see okay, so this is the one. Okay, so we can see the weight of the stocks could be either very high or very low, right? It's not realistic, right? Okay, so therefore we need to set the constraints on the weight. Okay, so the weight of each stock should be greater than or equal to like minus 10%. Okay, so it's up to you. You can set minus 5% or minus 15%, minus 12%. Okay, it's up to you. Okay, so this is the one. As you can see that the weight of each asset is equal or above minus 10%. Okay? Yeah, does it make sense? So for the remaining of the portfolios, we need to do the same. Okay, we need to set the weight of each stock greater or equal to minus 0.1. Okay? Yeah, is that clear? Is that clear? Okay, so this is how we construct portfolios with short sales allowed. Okay? Yeah? Do we have any further questions? And then we need to construct other two portfolios. Okay, so here we use the 30 stocks, right, to depict the minimum variance portfolio. Okay, we construct 10 portfolios and get that feasible set. And then another two that we need to depict is based on 15 stocks.
But in the two with high beta and low beta,
Yeah.
do we have to depict the feasible frontier, or we just need to find the optimal portfolio?
Yeah, we need to also get the feasible frontier.
So we have to reduce solver.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, keep doing that. Keep doing that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm exactly.
Yeah.
doing
Okay. So it's
no,
not.
because
It's,
I thought, okay, once you find the optimal portfolio, that is the one you're going to invest in, so that's it. And now I'm using.
yeah, of course. So I don't know if you were here. So for the portfolios that we actually issue in the market is the tangency portfolio. Okay, but we need to get that feasible set. Okay, this is also a way like to show the investors. Okay, so yeah, do we know how to get the beta of the stocks? No. No. Okay, not really. Okay, so to get a beta, we need to first get the data of the market index, okay, the benchmark. This is what I just mentioned, okay? So benchmark is not only used for evaluate the performance, to compare the performance of the funds that we constructed and the benchmark. Okay, so the benchmark is also used to calculate the beta. So what is beta? you still remember the definition of beta? What is beta?
Total risk.
Sorry?
Total risk.
Total risk? Okay, if beta is total risk, so what is the standard deviation?
No, the beta is when you out a certain stock or asset or everything move in relation to
the market.
a benchmark or
Okay, more or less, very good. So standard deviation is used to measure the total risk of assets, okay? Total risk of assets basically comprises two types of risk. One is market risk, and then one is the firm-specific risk. We say that firm-specific risk could be diversified, could be reduced if we invest in different types of assets, okay? And the market risk could not be diversified away, okay? So beta basically is to measure how sensitive an asset is, okay, when the market change, when the market crash. Okay, does it make sense? So this is beta.
Beta is actually the market risk, right?
Sorry?
Beta measures market risk.
Make market risk. Beta measures market risk. Okay. So do you still remember the Kaplan model? Okay. So this is basically the equation, okay, to show the expected excessive return, okay, given the certain level of market risk, okay, and the beta. This is the beta, okay. Yeah, does make sense. So beta is basically the slope, okay. Therefore, when we calculate beta, we use the slope function. Okay? So first we got the return of stocks and the benchmark market, refer to market, right? We got risk-free rate, okay? And we need to calculate excessive return, okay? So it's the return of the asset subtracted by the risk-free asset, risk-free rate. Okay, and then market return subtracted by the risk-free rate. So we use the return of stock A, yeah, right, in December 2016, subtracted by the risk-free rate. Okay? Because we need to always subtract the risk-free rate, we need to freeze that column of the risk-free rate. So when we freeze the column or row number, we use dollar sign. Okay? So here, in front of the column number T, we just put a dollar sign. Okay? And then that's it. And then we just drag it to the right-hand side. And then double click. Okay, so these are the risk-free rates. Oh, sorry, excessive return of the stocks and the market. Okay, so we just check the sale. Okay, check the excessive return of these stocks in January 2016. You can see, so it's the return of stock A in January 2016 subtract risk-free rates in that month. Okay, so you can see T9 here doesn't change. Can we see that? Okay, so it's T9 doesn't change. The sale of the risk-free rate doesn't change all the time because we freeze that. Can we see that? Yeah? So we got this risk-free rate. We just we need to calculate beta. Yeah. So remember, beta is the slope, right? So we use the slope function. Okay? So given the slope function, we need to put the dependent variable and independent variable. So what is the dependent variable? What's the dependent variable? Is that sorry?
SP 500.
Yeah. So y? What is the y? What is dependent variable?
The returns,
Return of what?
like the portfolio, and the independent one is the S&P or equities.
Okay. So dependent variable is the excess return of the stocks. Okay. Independent variable is the excess return of the market. Okay. So the return of the stock changes given the change of the market. Okay. So yeah. So first, it's the market changes. It doesn't affect by the change of the stock. Okay. Then when the market changes, stock changes. Yeah. So the dependent variable is the excess return for stocks, okay, and then use comma, separate it, and then independent variable is the excess return of the market, okay. So we will use the market's excess return of the market all the time, so we need to fix it, okay. We fix the whole column, okay. We just so it means that we need to fix the column number and the row number, okay? Well, in this case, we can just press F4. Press F4, we can see we have a $sign in front of the column number and the row number, okay? And then that's it, and then drag it to the right-hand side. Okay, so we got the beta for all these stocks, okay? So to separate them, okay, given the value of beta from highest to lowest. Okay? So 30 stocks is not that easy. Okay? So we can use the rank function to rank this value. Okay? So it's from highest to lowest. So it's descending, right? And then drag it to the right hand side. Sorry. Okay. So when I drag it, it means that the whole row of this beta would change. Okay. So I need to freeze that. Otherwise, as we can see, we got a few 2, number 2, a few 6. Okay, doesn't make sense. So I need to freeze this row. Again, use F4, right? Okay. So we can see we got a number from 1 to 15. Do we have numbers? Okay, we should exclude the market. I didn't exclude the market. Okay, then it's better.
No, it's
Right,
good, yeah.
better. Sorry?
It's
Sorry?
good.
It's good, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can see number 1, 2, right, from 1 to 3 to 15. For you, you've got 1 to 30, right? Then we can separate it, okay? 1 to 15, highest beta. 16 to 30, lowest beta, right? And then for this 15 stocks with highest beta, we again construct 10 portfolios. Again, we pick the minimum variance from 10, okay? And then those 15 stocks with lowest beta, we again do that, okay, to get the minimum values from here. Okay, is that clear? Is that clear? Or are you overwhelmed? Do you think it's too much or what? Sorry? Too overwhelmed? Okay, so it seems very complicated, okay, but
It's not complicated.
is it, sorry?
It seems like
What? It seems very complicated, it seems very overwhelming, but once try to construct 10 portfolios, okay, for the 30 stocks, given short sales not allowed, okay, once you know how to do that, you can easily do the remaining part. Okay, later you would find it's not complicated but very tedious, right? Kevin, what do you think? Is that right? Is that tedious?
It takes time.
It takes time, but it's not that complicated, right?
please save this sheet and upload on the Google.
Yeah, I will. Okay. Yeah. So try to work on that. It seems, but once you work on that, it's not as difficult as you thought. Okay. Is that good? Okay. Shall we take a break then while I talk about task 2? Yeah. So let's back.